A Democratic congressman from Michigan has introduced articles of impeachment against President Donald Trump. I'm Andrew Rafferty in Washington, and this is On the Scene. Representative Shri Tanadar says Trump, quote, repeatedly demonstrated that he is unfit to serve as president and represents a clear and present danger to our nation's Constitution. Tanadar cites unlawful deportations, Trump's tariff policies, and DOJ's dismantling of federal agencies among his evidence. But with Democrats in the minority in the House of Representatives, this effort won't go far. Trump was impeached twice in his first term, but never removed from office.
Something very big is happening in Washington right now, and it is something we have never seen before in American history. A lot of people are talking about it, but it can be hard to cut through all the noise to see what is actually going on. Basically, President Donald Trump is facing a two-sided push to remove him from office. On one side, members of Congress are filing new papers to impeach him. On the other side, there are reports that people inside his own inner circle, his cabinet, are talking about using a special rule to take away his power. This matters because it is happening all at once. We have seen impeachments before, and we have heard people talk about the 25th Amendment before, but seeing both happen at the same time is brand new. It creates a lot of questions about who is really in charge and how our government is supposed to work when things get this tense. This isn't just about politics as usual. It is about the basic rules that keep the country running. Whether you follow the news every day or just once in a while, what happens in the next few weeks is going to change things for a long time. Let's look at the facts of what is happening right now. Shri Tanadar, a congressman from Michigan, has officially started the process to impeach the president. This is not about the old things people used to talk about, like what happened in 2019 or 2021. These are brand new charges based on things that happened in just the last few days. Shri Tanadar says that the president has shown he is not fit to do the job. He argues that the president is a clear danger to the rules of the country. The charges being brought forward are very serious. The first one is called treasonous war against the United States. That is a very heavy word to use. It means they are accusing the president of fighting against his own country. The second charge is about systemic violations of constitutional rights. This means they believe there is a repeated pattern of the president breaking the basic rights that every citizen has. These aren't just one-time mistakes. They are being called a deliberate way of doing business. There are two main events that triggered this sudden move. The first happened on October 9th. The president signed an order to label a group called Antifa as a terrorist organization. Now, people have many different opinions on that group, but the issue here is about the law. There is a specific way the government is supposed to label groups as terrorists. It usually involves a long process with Congress and the State Department. The president did it all by himself with one signature. This has caused a lot of worry because it looks like the president is taking power that he does not actually have. The second event is even more intense. There are reports that a federal prosecutor was fired. This prosecutor's job was to follow the law without taking sides. The report says the president wanted this prosecutor to start criminal investigations into people who are the president's political rivals. When the prosecutor said no because there was no evidence, they were fired. If this is true, it means the president tried to use the legal system as a tool to go after people he does not like. This is exactly what groups like Free Speech for People are worried about. Free Speech for People is a group that watches how the government uses its power. They have a list of 25 different reasons why they think the president should be impeached. They just added the last two reasons to that list because of the Antifa order and the fired prosecutor. They believe these actions go way over the line of what a president is allowed to do. While all of this is happening in Congress, something else is going on behind closed doors. Members of the president's cabinet are reportedly having secret meetings. They are talking about the 25th Amendment. This is a part of the Constitution that lets the vice president and the cabinet remove a president if he cannot do his job. Usually this is for when a president is very sick, like if they are in a coma or had a heart attack. But right now these officials are talking about it for a different reason. These officials, including legal advisors and security experts, are worried that the president's behavior is too unpredictable. They aren't saying he is physically sick. They are saying his actions are so far outside the normal rules that he is effectively unable to do the job of a president anymore. This is a huge deal because these are the people the president chose to help him lead. If they are the ones talking about removing him, it shows there is a lot of trouble inside the administration. This has caused a lot of people to start looking for answers. Websites that track impeachment have seen a huge jump in visitors. People are starting to realize that the system of checks and balances is being tested in a way it never has been before. The next few weeks will show if the Congress or the cabinet will actually take these final steps. It is a situation where the rules of the government are meeting the reality of a very divided country. When we look at what is happening, it is clear that we are in a very strange moment for the law. The main point of this whole situation is the balance of power. Our government was built so that no one person has too much control. But right now it looks like the president is trying to move past those limits. By labeling a group as a terrorist organization on his own, he is trying to act like the lawmaker, the judge, and the leader all at once. Usually those jobs are split up to keep things fair. The firing of the prosecutor is another big piece of the puzzle. In a fair system, the people who investigate crimes are supposed to be independent. They aren't supposed to work for the president's personal interests. If a president can fire anyone who won't help him attack his enemies, then the law isn't the same for everyone anymore. That is why these impeachment articles use such strong words. They are trying to say that the very foundation of how our country works is being broken. We can compare this to the past to see how different it is. Trump was impeached twice before. The first time was about a phone call to Ukraine, and the second was about what happened on January 6th. Both of those were about specific events. This new attempt is different because it is about how the president is using his everyday powers like executive orders and hiring or firing people. It is a broader look at how he runs the government. The 25th Amendment talk is also very different from history. In the past, this rule was only used for health reasons. For example, when President Reagan had to have surgery, he temporarily gave his power to the vice president. It was a smooth, agreed-upon handoff because he was going to be under anesthesia. What is happening now is not a handoff. It is an argument about whether a president's choices and mental state make him unfit to lead. Using the 25th Amendment as a way to solve a political or leadership problem is something the people who wrote the rule never really intended. It is a break glass in case of emergency tool, and the cabinet seems to think the emergency is here. If we look at other countries, we see things like this happen when a government is about to go through a big change. Often when a leader starts to ignore the rules of the country, the people around them have to decide if they will follow the leader or follow the rules. That is exactly what the cabinet is doing right now. They are caught between being loyal to the person who gave them their jobs and being loyal to the Constitution. Another thing to think about is the timing. We are getting close to the 2026 midterm elections. In the past, parties have used impeachment to show voters that they are standing up for what is right, but it can also backfire. If the public thinks it is just a political game, they might get angry at the people starting the impeachment. This is the same thing that happened in the 1990s with Bill Clinton. The people who tried to remove him actually lost support because the public thought they were going too far. The leaders in Congress today have to be very careful not to let that happen again. So what happens next? In the short term, expect a lot of noise. The House of Representatives will likely move forward with these impeachment articles. Since Democrats have the majority there, they can probably pass them. This would make Donald Trump the first president in history to be impeached 3 times. That is a huge mark on his legacy that will be in history books forever. However, just because the House impeaches him doesn't mean he leaves the White House. The case then goes to the Senate. To actually remove him, 2/3 of the Senate has to vote yes. Right now, that seems almost impossible. Republicans in the Senate are very unlikely to vote against their own leader because they don't want to upset the people who vote for them. So the most likely result is that Trump stays in office, but the country becomes even more divided. The 25th Amendment path is even less likely to happen, but it would be much faster if it did. If the vice president and the cabinet actually signed a paper saying the president couldn't do his job, he would lose his power instantly. But the political cost for those people would be huge. They would be seen as traitors by many voters. Because of that, most of those officials will probably stay quiet and hope things get better on their own. In the long term, this is going to change how future presidents act. If Trump faces no consequences for these actions, future presidents will know they can also use executive orders to label their enemies or fire prosecutors who don't follow their orders. It sets a new normal where the president has much more power than before. On the other hand, if this impeachment or the 25th Amendment talk actually slows him down, it might reinforce the idea that the president still has to follow the rules. We are also looking at a very messy 2026 election. This whole situation will be the main thing people talk about when they go to vote. It could help the Democrats if voters are worried about the president's power, or it could help the Republicans if voters think the president is being treated unfairly. In the end, we are watching a test of the American system. The founders of our country built these rules for a crisis just like this. We are about to find out if those rules still work in the modern world. Whether the president stays or goes, the way we think about the power of the White House has changed forever. The next few weeks will be some of the most important in our history. Stay calm, keep watching the facts, and we will see how this story ends.